this helicopter thing in recruiting, you should be getting pretty close to where you can just say, hey, I'll take it for a few minutes.
I have done that. I can take the control and drive it around a little bit. So I'm watching and learning on the job. Definitely the way to recruit, that's for sure.
All right, you talk about how this is one of the busiest times of year, getting ready for the bowl game. You're finishing off a recruiting class with a new signing period. You were out on the road this week. I understand you can't talk about names, but how do you feel it's gone this time around? This is number 2 for this whole routine.
We should be in pretty good shape to sign a full class, other than maybe 1 or 2. So if we pick up one within the next 4 or 5 days, we'd be close. If not, we might have a couple left, just based on how it all pans out. But our reception's been terrific, and looks like we're in decent shape.
Has it been easier to manage this time around, knowing kind of what the landscape's going to be?
Yes. It wasn't really an issue last year. I think there was just a lot of uncertainty because it was new. We weren't for sure how it was going to go. Now we kind of have a better feel for it. I think the recruits and their families and the high school coaches have a better feel for the process.
Eddie Sutton used to say he never knew how a team would come out of final exams. Of course, in basketball, you come out and play games immediately. How'd you feel about practice today coming out of finals?
Average at best. They did okay. Their effort was good, enthusiasm's good, but it's still somewhat intriguing to me how they can be off for 4 or 5 days, and it takes them a while to come back, but that's like the first day of school and so on and so forth. So they'll get focused back. We'll work out again Sunday, and I think Monday, and maybe day off Tuesday. I can't remember, but they'll be fine.
How much closer are you to having, kind of at least blueprints for the game plan for Memphis and against Missouri?
Well, we've got the majority of the game plan done, but we're spring practicing half the practice, and the rest is game plan for Missouri.
Anything specific you're wanting to see out of them during these bowl practices?
Just basic fundamentals in all 3 phases. We have a special teams day once every 5 days. And then offense and defense is fundamentals, and we take 30 minutes or so and work on Missouri. But for the most part, we're getting a spring practice out of this, and our young players are getting a considerable amount of work.
Getting a greater chance to see Drew and Spencer in these practices, are you able to kind of sense how much they've developed since August?
They get better every week. They're getting more reps, considerable amount more than what they haven't gotten during the season, because you get 2 days to get ready for a game, and they seem to be doing fine. It's not as easy for them because they work with the second team line. They rotate in, and so those guys are all freshmen for the most part that haven't played, and so at times they make mistakes, but they seem to be picking up the system pretty well at this time.
I know I'm asking a lot of recruiting questions, but Patsy Armstrong, we saw her impact some in the spring and summer. Now that, official visits, going toward a signing day, what's her impact in recruiting?
Well, she's a great organizer and does a really good job of communicating with the families that come on our campus. And that's kind of rule number 1 in broadcasting.
Yeah, it is.
Well, but that was before. When you went to school, they didn't have phones.
Yeah, and look who called. He's not even here.
He doesn't get it.
Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, she's been really good with the families and a good organizer, and brought a lot of information to us. They say a woman has a lot better feel for taking care of people than a man does, and I think there's some good points to what she's doing. She has a really good feel for the process, and we're lucky to have her.
What is the reaction when you show up in a helicopter to high school and step out of it?
Oh, it's a big hit. All the young people at the school like it, and it's pretty intriguing for them. And so it's a lot of fun, but it's certainly the easiest way to get around. And some of them want to ride in it, which we can't do that. But the journalism students at the school, they always come out and want to take pictures. So it's pretty cool for the students and the coaches at the schools.
Have there been any other guys among your 2s and 3s that you feel have taken good advantage of the opportunity?
Well, they really have. Scott, all of them have. They're all working and making mistakes, and coaches are chewing on them and correcting themselves, and they're getting an extended amount of work, and it's been really good for the organization. It's been good for me to see them and get out there and get some quality work. And this has been a different approach for us in this bowl with it being so much later. But they're all getting some good work. The guys that value it more than any are the big guys, your up front guys on offense and defense, because during the season they do so much work for the demonstration team. They don't get the quality reps they need. They're getting those reps now. So I'm excited for them, and it's good for our program.
You mentioned being able to do a special teams day. Is that something that the calendar has allowed you because of the?
Yeah, we did a little different approach this year. We've had, already we've had 2 days that were an hour practice just for special teams, and so we don't do special teams in our practice. And it reduces the total amount of time we're on the field, and then it also points to the importance of what special teams are for our team. So we spend an hour a day on special teams, and that's all we do those days. And we'll have 5 of those before the bowl game. We'll have 1 at the site, and we'll have 2 more here.
Obviously, the game's still a couple weeks away, but it's Taylor's final game at quarterback. How do you think he should be remembered? What do you think his sort of legacy should be with fans and people around here?
Oh, gosh, I don't know, Mark. I mean, I think they make their own decision on that. In my opinion, he's a young man that's committed himself to this organization and has run up 3,400 yards passing, and has been very competitive. He's played very well in most of the games. I'm sure he would like to have the Kansas State, the TCU game back, but that's not uncommon for quarterbacks at this level. That will, on a 13-game season, they might have 2 or 3 games that they don't play as well. I'm sure that's the way he would feel, but I have a lot of respect for him, just essentially what he stands for and the way he competes.
How does a story like that help you in recruiting? How can you use his story to maybe tell that to other guys and get them to come here?
Oh, I don't know so much now in recruiting as if it does after they've been here 2 years and you want guys to stay. I mean, I'm not a big fan of all the transfer and what goes on at this time and day and age. It's not going to change. I think it's only going to get worse. So I think his story relates more to those young men than maybe high school players in the fact that you made a commitment and, stay with it unless there's a really good reason to say I needed to go somewhere else. So hopefully that'll work with some young people to have some continuity in the organization.
What about in recruiting walk-ons? You had a lot of success with that. To see his story, I mean, I don't know who won that Burlsworth Trophy this year, but it goes to the best former walk-on in the country. I don't know who won it.
From Clemson.
Kid from Clemson.
Kid from Clemson. Who won it.
Okay,
Yeah, he's a good player also. I'm sure, I don't know that he would be in the top 5. I don't know how many walk-ons would have competed at this level and beat 2 top 10 teams and thrown for 3,500 yards that were a walk-on. So that has always helped our organization with those guys. And we've got a number of guys that will walk on there this year that are potentially really good players that sometimes are overlooked. Recruiting's by far not a perfect science.
You mentioned last week that Jeter was getting some reps and running the wrong way. How his compass got fixed?
Yeah, he's doing better. I kind of have to chew on him every day a little bit early in practice, but he responds well and he has a good patience with him. To be honest with you, he runs a lot like Chris Carson. He'll run and kind of stop and then he'll find a seam and go. He's more of a slasher. So he's going to have to carry the ball a lot in the spring and he's going to have to compete in the fall. So these are really quality reps for him at this time.
What kind of value does Chuba's track background bring to his game?
Well, obviously it makes him faster. He's had a lot of training and running and sprinting, and he has really good endurance for a young player at this time. I don't know if he's going to run track this spring or not, indoor track, but it's always good training for him, development of their legs and strength.
The offensive line had sort of an up and down year, but it seemed like Tevin Jenkins was a guy who got pretty consistent as the year went on. How did you feel about his development?
He ended up being our most productive player, and if Tevin continues to work and develop and toughens up and all those things, he can make some money playing this game. He's got a special ability, and he certainly improved as the year went on. And we would like for him to step up and help and be one of the leaders for our team next year, and especially the guys up front.
We've talked to you since you went to the College Football Awards. Was there a highlight of that trip for you?
Well, being there, when you're there, you realize that there's only 27 players in the country that show up there, and I think there was 20 schools represented. I think Alabama had like 6 or 7 kids there. I'm not for sure, but so there's 20 schools represented and basically 27 players. Just to be in that environment is a special occasion, and we're fortunate. Coach Dunn and I were laughing about it that we've got to go a number of years, and it's a pretty special time. For somebody, if you ever get a chance to go, it's worth going. They do a nice job with it, with the red carpet and kids and other people around that get autographs from the players, and you get to see a lot of for me, I get to see coaches that I don't get to see normally because we all are on the same calendar, so it's a pretty special event.
You mentioned I bring this up just because you mentioned Tyler Trent and getting a chance to meet that young man backstage at Purdue. I mean, he's kind of one of the faces of this college football season.
Yeah, a special group, and his family was there, and the people that are with him, traveling with him. And when I bumped into him behind the curtain there, right after the show, and very responsive, very aware, alert. Although I guess I just kind of expected somebody to not be, as alert and all that as he was, and so had a good conversation with him and told him that. Going to send him a package and a bunch of Oklahoma State stuff, and I expected him to wear our stuff and root for Oklahoma State when he wasn't rooting for Purdue, and he said he would. So I'm going to hold him to that. And in fact, I just got off the road this morning, and I need to get with Justin and put a package together for him and send that up there to him for his family. But some people in life don't get dealt the hand that we all expect them to. And it's extremely difficult. So I think we're all responsible for trying to make it better for those people. And Purdue and Coach Braum, and they've done an unbelievable job of making his life and making his days much better. And so I really enjoyed the 5-minute conversation I had with him and his mom and dad, and he said he would cheer for Oklahoma State, so that made me happy. Good?